Hello everyone, welcome to the Tim Booker channel. Wishing you all an enjoyable listening experience. Today, the book I'm interpreting for you is The Halo Effect. In the competitive landscape of the business world, there are numerous business news reports and management books that fervently analyze the successes and failures of companies, attempting to distill a series of guiding principles to help more companies improve performance and expand their markets. Despite the abundance of experiences, successful companies in reality remain a minority. But why is that? The halo effect, which I'm introducing today, delves into this question. The author of this book, Phil Rosenzweig, graduated from the Wharton School in the United States, worked at HP for 7 years, taught at Harvard Business School for 6 years, and provided consulting services to internationally renowned companies like Microsoft and Mercedes-Benz. With 25 years of business and academic experience, Rosenzweig is a scholar who combines practical experience and theoretical acumen. Rosenzweig, drawing from his work and research experience, also points out that many media outlets and experts' analyses of corporate performance fall into a series of cognitive traps, exemplified by the halo effect. The success and failure lessons they summarize might seem reasonable, but many have not been scientifically tested and contain logical flaws, which can mislead managers. Through this book, Rosenzweig hopes to help managers learn to view media and expert analyses critically and objectively. Additionally, based on his own experiences, he analyzes the most crucial factors affecting corporate performance. After its publication in 2007, The Halo Effect was named the best business book of the year by the Financial Times and the Wall Street Journal. Nassim Nicholas Taleb, the author of The Black Swan, considered it one of the most important management books ever written. A valuable interpretation compared to the multitude of error-ridden, naive business books. The Guardian also praised the book for shattering the underlying logic of many business books, revealing that these books are far less useful than they appear. Subsequently, the author released a new edition in 2014, incorporating more case studies. What I'm presenting today is this edition. In the following, I will go through 2 sections to interpret the main contents of the book for you. First, analyzing the cognitive traps surrounding corporate success and failure. Second, how companies can achieve strong performance. Let's start with the first section. Analyzing the cognitive traps surrounding corporate success and failure. I've summarized 5 common cognitive traps introduced in the book. They can obscure people's understanding and lead to incorrect attributions. The first trap is the halo effect. It's the notion that a company's performance acts like a halo, obscuring the true situation behind it. You can think of it as, everything looks great in love and war. In other words, people tend to judge other aspects of a company based on its performance. People believe that companies with high stock prices and rapid revenue growth excel in all aspects, from the leadership of the CEO to corporate culture and talent management. Conversely, the same applies. People tend to think poorly performing companies are lacking in these aspects. However, whether these companies are actually performing well is something many don't carefully verify. The author gives the example of Cisco. Cisco is an internationally renowned network equipment supplier, producing routers, servers, and more. Starting in 1997, Cisco's performance continuously climbed, reaching a market value of $555 billion by March 2000, surpassing Microsoft and becoming the world's most valuable company. During these years, business media across the United States, including Business Week and Fortune magazine, praised Cisco. The media's viewpoints were similar, believing Cisco's success was due to its focus on customer needs, strong acquisition and integration capabilities, and disciplined corporate culture, among other factors. However, in September 2000, Cisco's stock price began to plummet, reaching its lowest point in April 2001. The market value dropped from over $500 billion to just over $100 billion. From 2001 to 2003, Businessweek and Fortune magazine published a series of articles analyzing Cisco's failures. What was once praised about Cisco was now criticized. What the media initially said about Cisco's customer focus was now replaced with claims that, even at its peak in 2000, Cisco failed to focus on customers. Similarly, what was once praised as Cisco's expertise in acquisitions now turned into criticism of its reckless acquisition strategy, buying unprofitable startups with uncertain futures. Previously, the media praised Cisco's disciplined culture. But now, they argued Cisco lacked a coordinated and unified plan, with many research projects in disarray. In the author's words, these reports were steering with the wind, as the media did not truly understand the real reasons for Cisco's success or failure. Instead, under the influence of the halo effect, they attributed reasons to those factors that appeared prominent and seemed logically viable. As for what Cisco actually did and how much impact it had on performance, the media didn't conduct scientific investigations. Beyond media reports, even investments claiming in-depth company research fall into the trap of the halo effect. The author cites the example of the best-selling business book, In Search of Excellence. Published in 1982, it was the first business management book in U.S. history to exceed 1 million sales. Forbes ranked it as one of the most influential business books of the 20th century. The author of In Search of Excellence, Tom Peters, selected 43 top American companies, including IBM, McDonald's, and Boeing. After numerous interviews and data collection, he attributed their success to 8 principles, including customer proximity, emphasis on action, reduced administrative levels, and focus on familiar businesses. These principles sound reasonable. But the issue is that much of Peters' analysis relied on media interviews with successful company managers, who may also have been influenced by the halo effect, unconsciously distorting the truth and boasting about themselves. We cannot determine whether these principles are responsible for excellent performance, or merely the result of the halo effect. When Peters revisited the 35 companies he studied in the years following his research, the results showed that only 12 of them experienced growth rates exceeding the overall market growth rate. Companies that were highly renowned, such as DuPont, Johnson & Johnson, and Disney, failed to achieve performance growth above the market average. Extending the investigation to 10 years yielded similar results. Only 13 out of 35 excellent companies had growth rates higher than the market average. The remaining companies didn't reach the average level. Some companies, like Avon and Hughes Aircraft, were acquired by other companies, indicating the limited reliability of the principles outlined In Search of Excellence. The problem of data collection In Search of Excellence is not unique. It's prevalent in other best-selling management books as well, such as Good to Great, another well-known title. The author, Jim Collins, explored how a mediocre company transforms into a great one and spent 5 years on in-depth research. Collins believed that the key factors in company transformation were managers' humility and determination. They were reflective, valued the power of the team, while poorly performing companies often had autocratic managers focused on themselves. The author argues that even this viewpoint is influenced by the halo effect. Many of Collins' materials came from journalist reports, company spokespeople, and executive recollections. These materials are subjective and skewed, as they credit the presence of humble and resilient managers for the company's excellence. The question remains, did these managers truly make the company excellent? Or do people just associate excellence with humility and resilience? According to the author, the latter is more likely. It's important to note that the author doesn't believe the conclusions of business reports and management books are completely incorrect. Under similar conditions, companies that focus on customer needs develop employee enthusiasm and have humble, resilient managers are usually beneficial for performance. However, the challenge lies in proving the effectiveness of these factors. We must first establish that these factors genuinely exist, rather than being illusions caused by the halo effect. Many media reports and management books skip this step. How can we overcome the halo effect? The author suggests avoiding methods like surveys or interviews, as these forms can easily be subject to the subjective influence of respondents. Instead, we should seek objective data that's not influenced by subjectivity. For instance, to study how a company's focus on customer needs affects performance. Researchers could investigate whether the company has established processes to collect customer feedback, how long it takes to respond to customer opinions, and how much time managers spend addressing customer feedback each week. These data points are objective and genuine, avoiding the influence of the halo effect. The second cognitive trap is the reverse causation, a common mistake we make when attributing cause and effect. We see a connection between two factors, but it's challenging to determine which one is the cause and which one is the effect. For example, researchers find that companies with better performance have more satisfied employees and lower turnover rates. However, this still doesn't prove that employee satisfaction affects performance, because it's difficult to establish which is the cause and which is the effect. Researchers might suggest that employees satisfied with the company will work harder, leading to more satisfied customers, thus improving the company's performance. On the other hand, it could also be argued that since the company performs well, it can offer better benefits and more opportunities, leading to higher employee satisfaction and lower turnover rates. How do we clarify who is the cause and who is the effect? The author suggests extending the data collection period, observing which factor changes first in the study. For example, if researchers collect data from a company over 3 years, and find that typically, the company's performance improves first, followed by an increase in employee satisfaction, then researchers can conclude that the company's performance is the cause and employee satisfaction is the effect. The third cognitive trap is called the exaggeration of a single factor. Some researchers investigate the impact of a specific single factor on performance, such as market positioning or leadership ability. However, the problem lies in the lack of a clear definition for the specific aspects encompassed within a single factor. Researcher subjectivity might lead them to attribute the effects of other factors to the studied single factor, thereby exaggerating its influence. Researchers at the University of Delaware conducted a study on the impact of corporate social responsibility on performance. Corporate social responsibility involves companies not only pursuing profits but also providing better employee benefits, engaging in environmental activities, and focusing on product safety. Their conclusion was that 40% of the variance in company performance is related to a sense of corporate responsibility. While this 40% figure might seem substantial, there's a question of how the researchers defined corporate responsibility. For instance, product quality undoubtedly affects performance. Would product quality be considered part of corporate responsibility? Some might argue that it isn't, as product quality is seen as a separate factor. However, others might consider it part of corporate responsibility, as responsible companies naturally prioritize product quality to build a positive reputation. Such classification issues are common in research. Real-world factors affecting performance are diverse, without universally agreed-upon categorization standards. Categorizing every factor and considering that researchers usually have expertise in just one area, they may overemphasize the importance of their own field. As a result, they might incorporate many factors under their area of study. For example, a researcher specializing in leadership might attribute aspects like talent development, corporate culture, product quality, and organizational structure to CEO decisions. After considering these factors, their conclusion could be that CEO leadership accounts for 60% of performance. However, if a different person conducted the study, their definition of leadership might differ. They might exclude corporate culture and talent development from CEO influence and conclude that leadership contributes to 30% of performance. Both researchers would feel their conclusions are more valid, but they wouldn't convince each other. Hence, the author believes that research on single factors is easily influenced by researchers' subjectivity and lacks credibility. The author introduces a study conducted in collaboration between Boston University and Harvard Business School. Instead of analyzing a specific single factor, the researchers studied common management factors, such as market positioning, social responsibility, human resource management, and CEO leadership. This approach eliminates categorization issues and prevents result exaggeration. The ultimate conclusion was that these combined factors explain only 32% of variance in performance. The remaining performance influences either originate from external industry conditions or are simply unexplainable. Having discussed the exaggeration of a single factor, let's move on to the fourth cognitive trap, generalization from the specific. This trap is related to the selection of samples. If the sample lacks universality in representativeness, it can affect the analysis results. The book provides an example from Good to Great, where the author Jim Collins analyzed 11 exceptional companies and compared them with 11 ordinary companies. He believed that compared to the ordinary companies, the exceptional ones were disciplined, had a single focus, appeared slow-moving yet stable. Thus, Collins concluded that to improve performance, one should focus on a few areas instead of pursuing multiple goals and spreading efforts. However, the author points out that Collins' conclusion ignores the risks behind the focus strategy. The author uses an analogy: imagine 1,000 people betting on horses. We select the top 10 winners based on profits, and we find that they took significant risks by putting all their chips on one horse. If they bet right, their returns would exceed those who spread their chips across multiple horses. These winners are undoubtedly focused gamblers, but this doesn't mean their average performance surpasses that of diversified gamblers. There might be more focused gamblers who lost everything due to wrong bets. From a probability perspective, the average return of diversified gamblers would be better since they control risks and avoid massive losses. Although they earn less money, it's better than losing everything. Collins' analysis faces the same issue. He only analyzed 11 successful companies without looking at other companies in the market that employed a focus strategy. Many companies that focused solely on their core business might have neglected market changes and failed to adapt in time, resulting in closure. This kind of research lacks a sufficient sample size to reflect the real market situation. Therefore, when analyzing companies, researchers should have a sufficiently large sample size, avoiding focusing only on a few top-tier companies. Both successful and ordinary companies need to be thoroughly investigated to prevent generalization from the specific. Lastly, let's discuss the fifth cognitive trap, neglecting external factors. Many reports and books highlight success stories assuming that a company's success or failure is solely determined by its performance. The underlying assumption is that as long as a company excels in various aspects, it will succeed. However, in a competitive market economy, a company's performance is influenced by numerous external factors. Neglecting these factors can obscure the true reasons for performance fluctuations. Competitors, for instance, are a common external factor. The book introduces a management bestseller titled 4+2. It cites the case of Kmart, a U.S. retail chain, as a counterexample. The book argues that Kmart's ever-changing business strategies, poor execution, and chaotic organizational structure led to its bankruptcy in 2002. However, the author challenges this notion, asserting that Kmart had indeed made significant efforts to improve performance. For instance, it expanded centralized purchasing to 75% to reduce procurement costs, modernized warehouse management to enhance inventory, resulting in a 60% growth in sales during Christmas and Halloween. Kmart also established a toll-free service hotline, greatly improving customer satisfaction. Through these measures, Kmart significantly improved its retail efficiency, with inventory turnover increasing from 3.45 in 1994 to 4.56 in 2002, a 32% improvement that is quite significant. Looking at these efforts and outcomes alone, Kmart seems like a positive case. However, Kmart still went bankrupt because its competitor Walmart outperformed it. From 1994 to 2002, Walmart's inventory turnover increased from 5.14 to 8.08, a staggering 63% improvement, twice that of Kmart's. Moreover, Walmart had lower procurement costs and faster logistics, causing Kmart to lose its market advantage. This cognitive trap of neglecting external factors also explains why a company, even if it follows excellent practices step by step and does everything right, can still fail. Competitors' actions are ever-changing and hard to predict. Even if managers do their best, they can still be overtaken by competitors. Market preferences, technologies, and policies are constantly changing external factors. Hence, the idea that a company can achieve success simply by replicating specific practices might be comforting but not necessarily effective. The author believes that uncertainty is the only certainty in the business world. There are no eternal rules, and perpetually exceptional companies don't exist. Researchers from Harvard Business School analyzed 692 U.S. companies' investment return rate changes from 1971 to 1980. Initially, top-performing companies had a return rate of 39%, while underperforming companies had only 3%. The difference was significant. However, after 9 years, the return rates of both types of companies converged toward the middle. Top-performing companies' return rate dropped to 21%, while underperforming companies' return rate rose to 18%. The difference had become negligible. Many management books use industry giants like Microsoft and Intel as role models, but their performance is also subject to ups and downs. This conclusion might sound deflating, yet the author does provide a solution in the book. It teaches companies to identify key performance factors amidst uncertainty. Now, in the second part, let's delve into how enterprises create superior performance in the author's view. The author believes that two factors drive a company's performance: strategic choices and actual execution. Strategic choices encompass the actions a company takes that differentiate it from competitors and how it allocates its limited resources. This includes aspects like product positioning, whether focusing on cost efficiency or performance, identifying the primary customer base, determining which activities to keep in-house and which to outsource, whether to stick to the existing market or introduce new products. Strategic choices define the customer base, market size, advantages, and competitive positioning in relation to competitors, significantly impacting performance. Actual execution, on the other hand, refers to how a company implements its strategy into its operations, ensuring efficient and smooth progress in line with the strategic plan. This involves methods to enhance production efficiency, accelerate new product development, and reduce costs. However, as mentioned earlier, both strategic choices and execution are fraught with uncertainty. For instance, it's uncertain whether customers will accept or reject new products or services, how much they're willing to spend, and if competitors will adopt similar strategies and outperform the company. Every company has its distinct values, employee personalities, and regulations. Measures that work in one company may not yield the same results in another. Managers need to tailor appropriate actions based on their company's characteristics to advance actual execution. Given the perpetual presence of uncertainty, there's no one-size-fits-all rule. So, what should managers do then? According to the author, outstanding business leaders consider various factors comprehensively before daring to make risky strategic choices and then persistently execute those strategies. Firstly, when making strategic choices, managers should shift their focus from the outcome's goodness or badness to the decision-making process itself. Managers need to ask themselves if the information they've gathered is accurate, if they've overlooked crucial data, if their assumptions about customer needs and logic are valid, and if they've considered all potentialities and impacts. Managers should also consider if they can bear the cost of failure. If the cost is prohibitively high, such as bankruptcy, it's best to avoid the risk. If the risk is manageable, then managers should be bold enough to take it. Within this context, managers must make choices that maximize the current probability of success while maintaining a tolerable level of risk. Even if the ultimate outcome isn't ideal, as long as the decision-making process was sound, managers should proceed with the original choice. Robert Rubin, a former partner at Goldman Sachs and later the U.S. Treasury Secretary, managed many investment projects at Goldman Sachs. He believes that pursuing success requires embracing risk. In Goldman Sachs investment projects, approximately every 7 transactions, one might not succeed. Rubin considers a 6 out of 7 success rate to be sufficiently high. Occasional failures aren't indicative of flawed decision-making, they are unavoidable risks. If Goldman Sachs were to experience consistent investment success, it would suggest that they're not taking enough risk and are overly conservative, which could affect their revenue. Andy Grove, the legendary former CEO of Intel, is another example of embracing risk. In the 1970s, after Intel developed a 256-bit memory chip, conventional logic dictated that they should proceed to develop a 512-bit memory chip, like other memory manufacturers. However, Grove, aiming to gain a competitive advantage, decided to break the norm and directly develop a 1024-bit chip with greater capacity. The technical challenge was immense. Reflecting on this experience, Grove referred to it as a significant technological gamble. He remarked it was a high-risk decision. It was a bet the company decision. They succeeded, and the chip created a sensation in the market. Grove didn't have a guarantee of success when making this decision, hence, he likened it to gambling. He believes that for a company to grow and thrive, it's not enough to merely do things right, it's necessary to do things better than competitors. This signifies the necessity of risk-taking. Grove made this decision after thorough research of industry trends, customer demands, and technological developments. He was well aware of the potential for failure, yet he was willing to take the risk. This willingness to take risks propelled Intel to achieve breakthrough after breakthrough. In 1985, Grove made another bold move by completely exiting the memory chip market and shifting the company's focus to microprocessors. Although this decision sparked controversy, it proved to be worthwhile. Intel established a dominant position in the microprocessor market, reaping substantial rewards. Next, after determining the strategic direction, managers need to identify the key areas of execution that take priority based on the current specific strategy. Some reports and management literature tend to use the adjective flawless when discussing execution, advocating that companies excel in all aspects. For instance, as mentioned earlier, the best-selling book 4+2 emphasizes the importance of flawless execution as one of the elements of business success. However, the author contends that striving for flawlessness in execution is not practical, it's an unattainable goal that's difficult to truly achieve. Outstanding managers don't just talk about perfect execution in general terms. Instead, they focus their attention within a defined scope and allocate resources to the execution aspects that are most beneficial for the current strategy. Larry Bossidy, the CEO of the international manufacturing giant Honeywell, believes that execution is the most critical factor influencing a company's performance. However, he doesn't pursue all-encompassing perfect execution. During his tenure as CEO, he concentrated on 4 key areas: new product development, inventory management, improving order-to-delivery rates, and enhancing operational costs. In his view, these 4 aspects were the areas where the company needed the most improvement at that time. Furthermore, during the actual execution, managers must adapt their strategy promptly based on market feedback and not neglect strategy due to a fixation on execution. Many people focus on execution to evade strategic issues. If the belief is that the company's direction is correct, they might think that accelerating speed along that path is all that's required. This perspective can be comforting. In contrast, acknowledging that the company's direction is flawed can be much more painful. When companies experience performance problems, they often attribute their issues to poor execution. For example, in 2004, Hewlett-Packard's performance was not ideal. At the time, the then CEO Carly Fiorina stated that their strategy wasn't wrong, it was merely the execution that fell short. Half a year later, Fiorina was dismissed, and a new CEO, Mark Hurd, took over. HP publicly stated that Hurd was chosen for his exceptional execution capabilities. From the author's perspective, HP was facing threats across various sectors. They couldn't outsell Dell in personal computer sales, IBM was taking over the business computer market, and HP faced challenges from Kodak and Sony in the consumer electronics market. With so many markets encountering problems simultaneously, HP clearly needed to reflect on its strategy. However, discussing strategy would have introduced more complicated issues, and managers are often more inclined to turn a blind eye. Therefore, managers must remain vigilant and consistently focus on strategic choices. At this point, the book, The Halo Effect, has covered the main content. Let's recap the key points of the entire book. The halo effect and other cognitive biases hinder a correct analysis of the reasons behind business success or failure. The business market is riddled with uncertainty and risk, and there are no eternal principles that guarantee continual success. To achieve excellent performance in uncertain circumstances, companies need to focus on 2 critical aspects: strategic choices and actual execution. Managers need to consider a variety of factors, take calculated risks, and identify the best means of execution to drive their companies forward smoothly and efficiently. Alright, the halo effect has been summarized for you. Congratulations on finishing another book. Thank you all for your support and attention. Please subscribe to the Tim Booker channel, like the video, and share this valuable knowledge with your friends to combine wisdom with practice, achieve your financial goals, and create a better future. Thank you, and goodbye.